Hello, all, and welcome to another episode of the Market Pulse presented by SmartTouch. I am your host, Aaron Fichera, and today, backed by popular demand, we have the Geodude himself, Tanner Ross. Tanner, welcome.
Thanks for having me again. Glad to be back on our award-winning podcast.
It is, and it was actually, from the previous one, we had a lot of inquiries around concepts, geofencing, and applications in real estate even further, as well as conquesting. We didn't get to do our part two. And I'm going to do something a little different than I have in the past, just by some of the inquiries that we've been getting. I want us to start off with talking about some high-level concepts before we dive into the nitty-gritty, because people get very confused. There's a lot of misconceptions around what's geofencing, what's competitor conquesting, what's a conquesting strategy, what's IDFAs. And so really I want us to start off with, let's identify some concepts, big funnel, and then let's go down to applications, challenges, and solutions. So Tanner, I'm going to give you a curveball here. How does it all work? How does the ecosystem of IDFA, device IDs, ad exchanges, and the creatives that you put in front of players, how does this whole relationship work?
Sure. So it starts with the whole internet. The whole internet's out there. Everyone knows it's full of websites and apps. On those websites and apps, the main job of websites is to make money. Some more times than not, either be informational, to help sell items, sell ad space. So for the websites that are trying to make money and monetize themselves, they offer up their ad space to exchanges. So they'll work with an exchange like Google AdX is the largest one that most everyone is familiar with. And then that exchange, i.e. Google, works with advertisers to help sell the space and pay the websites for the clicks that they're able to generate or the impressions that they're able to generate and place on their website. So then from the advertiser's perspective, you then come in, tell Google, hey, I want to target these specific audiences, whether it be a remarketing audience, someone who's been to my website, didn't convert, I want to show an ad to them, follow them around the internet, be really creepy. You have other audiences such as in-market audiences where Google knows with all the data they have of anyone who is interested in buying a new home or a new house. So you can target that audience and Google will follow them around. Hey, if that user has this audience or falls into this bucket and they're visiting this website, Google then pings the website and says, hey, this advertiser is willing to spend $10, $2. It's not that much more times than not, but you get the idea. They're willing to spend X to put their banner ad on your website. And if all these other advertisers who are in the ecosystem all bidding to try to get that ad space, whichever one wins the bid, their banner ad gets shown on the website. And they either get charged via a click, cost per click, or via a impression, CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions. So that's essentially how the whole internet ad ecosystem works. And inside of there, you have, like you mentioned, IDFAs. So that's going to be the user's device ID. So when they're browsing the internet on their mobile device, they have an ID. If you're on Android, you have a dedicated ID that Google, you pass through to Google when you're doing, your browsing and clicking and engaging on stuff on the internet. So if I take my phone, I'm on ESPN and I click on an ad on ESPN, in that click, I'm providing the Google Ad Exchange, my device ID, as well as a bunch of other user information coming from my phone that they're then able to use and sell to other people, other advertisers, across the internet to make even more gobs and gobs and gobs of money like Google does.
So basically, Google's the 9,000-pound gorilla that everyone has to work through.
Correct. Basically, there are other smaller ad exchanges out there that do get leveraged, but for the most part, Google is your go-to broker to get your ad shown on the internet.
Makes sense. I mean, so you talked about the placement and the different, and when I go on websites, there's different sizes, banners. Sometimes it's static, sometimes it's GIF. What creative should people be introducing in this medium of geofencing, or which mediums work?
There's a lot of variables to that on which ads they want to use. It starts off with, what kind of, assets do you have? Do you have a lot of high quality photography that you can leverage. If you don't, then you might want to stay with a static ad. If you do, then a GIF ad may be the right ad for you. It also comes down to, what are you trying to influence? What are you trying to get out of the banner ad click or the engagement? Are you trying to send traffic to your model home or get some on-site traffic? Or are you just trying to send traffic to your website just to get a click, to allow people to research, find out more about your development or your homes? Or are you trying to get form submissions from those banner ads as well? So all three of those things come into place. If you're trying to get form submissions, you're trying to get on-site traffic, you may need to use a harder CTA in your banner ads to kind of influence that behavior, get them to click and engage with your banner ad. If you're trying to just get traffic or just trying to get awareness for your brand or your community, your homes, then a softer CTA would be more applicable inside of there.
Okay. So the geo services, this is completely separate than conquesting. What, I guess the crux of the question is, what is conquesting and what are the mediums to conquest?
Yeah, so competitor conquesting is an overall marketing strategy. And it's where you are trying to leverage your competitors' traffic that they've generated to their website, or i.e. a competitor audience, their audiences that they're marketing to. You're trying to get in front of that audience to influence them and can make them consider your brand or your community, your homes, instead of your competitions. And you can do that through multiple different means. You can do it through Google search, for instance, by bidding on your competitor brand names. I don't advocate for that. It is very costly to do so, with all the minutia behind how Google's algorithm works on the Google Ads side of things. But that is how you can conquest, quote unquote, conquest on search. You can also do it through Facebook ads as well, by going in on their organic posts and kind of engaging with users who are already engaging with their content. So if you want to do it that way, you can do it that way. You can create a customer match list on LinkedIn, for example, where if you see some LinkedIn users are engaging with another brand, you can create a custom match audience off of that and put a LinkedIn ad in front of that user. So there's a lot of different mediums you can use conquesting for, but the overall strategy of competitor conquesting is leveraging your competitors' audiences to get them to consider your brand instead of theirs.
So if we want to take one step down, because it sounds like there's multiple mediums, what is competitor conquest in the medium of geofencing or geofencing services?
Yeah, certainly. So the one everyone's the most familiar with is regular geofencing, where, yeah, I'm going to go in, I'm going to geofence my competitor model homes, I'm going to show a banner ad to them to try to influence them to show up on site. Basically they're already considering, they've already done their research, they're in the touring phase, and you're trying to influence that user to show up on site at your model home, instead of just maybe stopping at all your competitors and not considering your model home or your brand and your community located somewhere else. So that's the most common one we see. Then there's the other one that people may or may not be familiar with, which is the IDFA list acquisitions, where again, you're geofencing all of your competitor locations and you're getting those IDs. You have that audience ID of anyone who has been physically on site to your competitor model home locations or competitor communities. You're acquiring that list and then you're uploading it to social media to get them to either go on site and go to your website, submit a form, or any one of those other marketing objectives you have. So those are the most common ones. Now the newest one that we have is what we call conquesting, SmartTouch Conquesting, where what we're doing is, like I mentioned before, talking about how the internet works with all the banner ads and the ad exchanges and all of that fun stuff. Whenever someone we take a list of your competitors. Let's just use some builders, for example. We're gonna say, DR Horton, Lennar are our main competitors here at SmartTouch Interactive. They're not, but let's just say that they are for the sake of this conversation. So let's say they are our competitors. What we offer now with SmartTouch Conquesting is we can go in and see whenever someone has engaged with one of their banner ads on the internet, has clicked on it and been to their website, we can acquire that list and give you that list to then advertise to them on social media. And what we also offer is not only can we, acquire that list for anyone who has clicked on one of the competitors' banner ads, been to their website, we can also couple it with that geofencing location data. So where we can get an audience of anyone who has been to a competitor website through an ad click and shown up on site to one of their model homes and give you that list as well.
So, okay, it primarily for those that are listening, they're going to want to say, okay, these are great tools and mediums. How do these three different buckets work, or what's the best application in real estate?
Yeah,
Home
and
builders, developers.
it really comes down to where you are and what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're really trying to drive more on-site traffic, then your standard geofencing campaign is going to be what you want to do. You're influencing that tour behavior. When you've gotten buyers who are at the tour level and you want to influence and conquest your competition while their buyers or potential buyers are currently touring, then you're going to want to use a geofencing campaign. For this latest tool, or the tool we already have with IDFA, a list acquisition, that's going to be more of you want to generate leads, you want to generate website traffic. You can target and geofence competitor locations with an IDFA list, get a really good finite detailed audience to use in Facebook or Instagram, show a lead gen ad in front of them, show a traffic ad in front of them, get them to your website, get them to submit a form. With conquesting, it's again, you're trying to drive traffic to your website. You're trying to influence that researching phase where your potential buyers are, where if they maybe haven't considered you yet, but they have considered Lennar, DR Horton, and you want to get in front of those, users who have engaged with that brand, then a SmartTouch Conquesting campaign and getting that list and acquiring that list would be more beneficial to you because you can then upload that to social media and get your brand in front of them, get them to go to your website, do their research on your website, and then potentially show up on site.
So it almost sounds like you're disrupting the buyer behavior because, the essence of geo services is that disruptor or, redirect. So rather than having to wait for them to come on your competitor's model home, site, physical address, you're kind of getting them in the research phase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, geofencing is a marketing tool that you can use, and then it has different applications like we've been talking about. I want to use geofencing to show a display banner ad in front of them, use a SmartTouch Geo campaign. I want to use geofencing to acquire IDs to then upload into social media and get a really refined audience. Use, SmartTouch IDs, the IDFA list acquisition. I want to create a new refined audience based off of what my competitors are doing, how much money my competitors are spending. If we're about to go into the Labor Day holiday weekend. If your competitors are about to spend more money coming off of that holiday because that's when buyers are increasing their research and they're doing more research for new homes, new home communities, and you want to take advantage of that without spending the same amount as one of your competitors, then a SmartTouch Conquesting list acquisition could be beneficial because you're basically leeching off of that competitor's marketing budget, getting a more refined list for yourself to use on social media to get more on-site traffic, to get more website traffic as well.
So. No, makes sense. Then, okay, well, let's stick with the competitor conquesting because being relatively new and kind of innovative, what are some initial challenges that you're seeing as well as solutions to those?
Yeah, certainly. So the initial challenges it's like we talked about in our last segment, like, I want to geofence the whole town. I want to geofence the Super Bowl. I want to geofence, the F1 races. It's very costly, especially like in my example, talking about Lennar and DR Horton. Those are national builders. They have large marketing budgets.
Yeah, but I'm not physically there. Like, how is it, more expensive if I'm latching onto the exchange? It's something that's not a physical location. Yeah. Where's the cost?
How the list pulls work is it's pulling off of that entire domain. So it's when we acquire lists, it's looking at your domain, and if you set it at a national level, like at the United States, I want all the users across the entire United States who have engaged with a DR Horton or a Lennar ad. That is a lot of people. It is a lot of people, and it is going to be a very costly list to acquire, anywhere from $100,000 and up, just on the small level. And I don't think a lot of people have $100K to throw at an audience. Now,
maybe the high volume, but not the medium and little guy.
Yeah, but if you're a local builder, a regional builder, that's your whole marketing budget for the year potentially. So how you refine that is you have to focus in and target that audience or that website based on where the users are located. So like I mentioned before, When you want to target DR Horton and you want to target Lennar, and you're only operating in the Orlando market, the Austin market, the Raleigh Durham market, Seattle, Atlanta, all of those different Chicago, different markets, you only want to focus in on users who are in those markets and have been to those domains. That way, if you're pulling a list from DR Horton, you're pulling a list from Lennar, you're not getting people who have engaged, all the way down in Alabama or up in Ohio when you're building in Austin or you're building in Orlando. That audience doesn't make sense for you, and they're not going to engage with your ad, and you're just going to throw money away. So when you do one of these conquesting campaigns, you have to still be very precise in what domains you pull. You have to, also make sure that domain is currently buying ads, which, hey, in this year, 2024, in this market, who is not buying ads as a home builder in a home community? So it's safe to say that domain will be buying ads. So you can verify that, and then also verify exactly what locations you want your audience pool to come from. If you set it at a national level, very costly. If you hyper-focus it down to the local level, now you're getting down to a list size that is usable and is within budget.
So it sounds like a little bit of an art and science, that you don't want to go too big, but you don't want to be so refined that it doesn't pull enough for the list.
Yeah, so exactly when we were talking about, we can pull two lists, kind of a two-list strategy for this conquesting stuff. Hey, I can get you a list of anyone who's been to your competitor websites, and that's it. They've engaged with an ad online, they've been to this competitor website, I can get you that list. Or couple it with anyone who has been to the competitor website and shown up on site. That list could be too small. And if it's too small, let's say, during a 15-day, 30-day period, they've only generated 100 units of traffic to their model home, and we get you that list of, they went to the website, they went to the model home, here's your 100 people. Inside of Facebook or inside of Instagram, that list isn't usable. It's too small. So you won't be able to use that and really get the full, benefit of that audience. Now, if you tackle on, 5, 6, 7, 10 advertisers or competitors with that website plus location targeting, you may get to a list size that's more usable. So it is, like you mentioned, an art. It's kind of a science, and a lot of strategy goes behind finding the right audience, make sure they're not too big, make sure it's not too small, and kind of like, the three bears, you get the porridge that's just right.
Yeah. The Goldilocks effect.
Yeah, the Goldilocks of conquesting targeting.
Well, and, you kind of sparked my interest on audience size. For those that are listening, the different mediums, what's the minimum for each? If you could kind of tell us offhand.
Yeah, so for Facebook, I know they're Facebook and Instagram, since they work together inside of Meta, those are around 250. You need 250 confirmed users on Facebook and Instagram to start serving an audience. Now on Google, they have increased their threshold. So if you want to start showing an ad to an audience on their display network via a remarketing audience, that size has to be 1,000 confirmed users before it starts to serve.
Ooh.
Historically, it's been a lot smaller. It's been anywhere down from 250 to 600 to now it's at 1,000. So Google's really is increasing the threshold of how many users you have to be going and getting on your remarketing list to start serving. LinkedIn is also right around the 300, 350 area of confirmed users if you want to use a customer match ID list. Same thing with TikTok. If you want to use a customer match ID list on TikTok, use these audiences we've been talking about. Theirs is also right around the 250 threshold. So across most advertising channels, you would be safe to assume if you have a list of anywhere from 250 to 300 confirmed matched users on your marketing channel, you will have an audience size large enough to start serving some ads.
I mean, offhand, where do builders and developers get more bang for their buck? I mean, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, Meta?
Yeah, it's mainly Facebook, Instagram, and the overall Meta platform. LinkedIn, if you've run LinkedIn ads before as a business, it's costly. It's like $25 per click. It is not a cheap ad buy for LinkedIn. So depending on your marketing message and what you're putting in front of the user, LinkedIn may be appropriate for you. It may not, and you can't stomach that $25 ad click on LinkedIn. You may not want to go there. TikTok as well. If your demographics are the younger first-time home buyer, you can target them on TikTok. TikTok is also really good for realtors. So if you have a specific realtor message or a realtor campaign and you have a realtor confirmed audience that TikTok is able to match back, You can target and use TikTok to target realtors. Overall, for these audiences, Facebook and Instagram is the go-to platform to upload them and get your ad in front of the end user that you're looking for.
Well, to touch on the realtor list, how effective is that, for builders and developers? Would you recommend targeting realtors, and how valuable is a list like that? Or how does it fit in the overall strategy?
Yeah, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you have an event, like you have a model home grand opening, in your community, or you're about to open up your model home as a builder, and you want to generate realtor interest, then sure, throw a video out there of your model home, like a model home walkthrough. Show it to realtors and encourage them. Hey, come out on site, bring your clients, like check out this really cool model home, or just to target the realtors, get them to come out, and then let that realtor leverage their network and post content of your model home, of them walking through your model home to their network to generate even more awareness. The only kind of hiccup we have run into targeting realtors is not a lot of realtors use the same business email as their TikTok email. So that match back is harder to come by. You need a lot larger initial list size to then get a really good usable list of realtors to target on TikTok.
Bring some organization to that group of people.
Yeah.
Well, Tanner, I appreciate it. I mean, closing thoughts on, and I want to wrap back into just as we're rounding out the year, or like you said, we're going into Labor Day, where should people start? Geofencing is not for everybody. So, who's it for, and, where do people start from?
Yeah. So to start, you really have to consider, your marketing budget. Is your marketing budget large enough, to introduce a strategy or a tool like geofencing? And then also to consider, hey, is this marketing budget large enough to even implement a competitor conquesting strategy that we've talked about? If it isn't, hey, is it something that, you would be willing to replace on your current budget to implement? You are kind of leeching, like I mentioned, off of your competitors with this competitor conquesting strategy. So you could supplement some of your marketing budget because you are, taking from a competitor, quote unquote. But the first part for considering a geofencing tool or a competitor conquesting strategy is, does my marketing budget allow for it? And then next thing you have to ask is, what goals and marketing goals do I want to accomplish with a geofencing tool or with a competitor conquesting strategy? Do I want to influence on-site traffic? Do I want to influence lead registrations? Do I want to influence website traffic? Or do I just want to overall influence and raise brand awareness? So across those four marketing goals and objectives, is geofencing a good tool to use, or is the competitor conquesting strategy a good strategy to use to accomplish one of those four things? Then the last part is, find some help. Reach out to an agency. We've talked a lot about today, different strategies, different tools, different audiences, this and that. So it is very helpful to work with an agency who is experienced in all of these things, working with budgets. So we can, go through and see, hey, geofencing is a great tool. Your budget allows for it. Or competitor conquesting is a great tool. You don't have the budget for it, but you do have the budget for a nice ID audience acquisition list, every other month during the year. So work with an ad agency that's very experienced and knowledgeable to help you make these decisions and let them fit and work with your current marketing budget.
Geodude, thank you again for joining us.
Yep, anytime.
And for those that are listening, thank you again for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on the Market Pulse. Have a great day.